Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name's Brian if you happen to be new around here, but if you're a returning subscriber, you're amazing, and all things in between. And thank you so much for coming back and checking out this video. And that's what you get for subscribing, by the way. Free compliments and extra greetings at the start of these videos. But beyond that, today I want to introduce you into the world of healing in New World. I've got a lot of things that I want to cover for you, but before we talk about how you level a healer, targeting, weapons and perks, gear, etc., I want to first start with this. I want you to find the fun and not the efficiency. This is critical, I think, into playing any kind of role in an MMORPG, and I tend to find players who focus in on efficiency and end up burning themselves out, or end up not enjoying the game at all. And so I want to first say, if you're considering playing as a healer in New World, focus in on the fun first. And if there's anything in this guide that doesn't focus in on fun for you, just throw it out, ignore it, etc. Also, and this is just a general practice when it comes to online games, just let people know that you're learning, that you're new, and that you're welcome and open for feedback. That can change all the interactions in the game itself. Letting people know and setting the expectation can help make it more of a journey together, as opposed to anybody kind of not doing their role right or their job right, etc. So that's what I want to open up with this video. Now you'll find this video has various chapters if you want to jump to any specific section that you want. Also, I'm not here to try and tell you that I'm the perfect PvP healer in this game or PvE healer. I'm on this journey with each and every one of you as well, so I'm always welcome to feedback, so feel free to sound off in the comments below. If you feel like I could make a better choice, I'm open for it, and that's a part of it. So if you guys enjoy this guide, also check in the comments, see if there's anything that kind of stands out and speaks to you specifically. This guide's going to heavily focus in on PvE. We will touch on a little bit of PvP for those of you out there that are interested, but I'm going to also point you to other resources at the end of this video that you can dive into if you're curious about expanding your knowledge, especially as things are going to change and this guide will have to be updated. So all that being said, I want to first talk about actually leveling a healer. And this might seem a little bit weird. Generally, I've been asked about this a lot. My advice actually is don't use leveling as a chance to level your healer. I actually leveled healing as my alternate weapon. I focused in on kind of the paladin build, namely for survivability. And this is critical. It's okay to get knocked out once or twice, but if you find yourself constantly getting repeatedly beaten over and over and over, well, that can be really frustrating. Again, focusing in on finding the fun. If you're playing with a group of other players, then yeah, there's nothing wrong with obviously focusing on healer. That could be of value. But if you find yourself doing a more solo style approach to New World, I say just level up, just however you want. Find the fun, focus in on the fun, and then turn around and then level up your healing weapon and gear. That's how I ended up doing it. I really enjoyed that approach, but I'll leave it up to you on what you decide to do. To highlight this, and we will explore some of my gear right now, I would easily just take my sword and grab in a shield, and that is essentially going to help overall my structure. Now, when it comes to specific gear, I actually focused in on heavy gear to give myself the most survivability. So that is essentially what it is. Now, obviously, right now I'm rocking light armor. We'll cover more of that in the weapons, armor, and perks section here later. So note that it's perfectly okay. Your build is going to be your build, and you can have the most fun with it. Now, what I will actually do is I'll bring back my current setup, and we'll review this here in just a few minutes. But the point is, leveling should be fun. If you're having fun leveling a healer and you like the challenge, healing and magic tend to be harder jobs, harder roles in MMOs and RPGs, hands down. That just kind of is the scalable difficulty of fun. So if you find that it's fun doing so, go nuts, have fun, and we'll cover more of what I'm going to talk about in this video will actually apply to you actually leveling. But at the end of the day, do whatever it takes to get to level 60. I wouldn't rush it personally. That's never my advice. I leveled 60 by fishing, gathering, doing quests, the whole kit and caboodle, and you can see my other guides kind of talking to you about that here on this channel if you're interested. But now actually I want to shift into targeting. And the reason is because as a healer, targeting is important. I weirdly enough play on controller. You don't have to follow me into this crazy void that of MMO RPGs that I enjoy on controller, but note that I do have controller guides here on the channel itself. But if we jump into key bindings, I want to kind of highlight a couple of new features that were added, maybe if you haven't played this game in a while. You can actually do a focus target on group member 1 through 5. You also have group toggle mode, and you can even have cycle targets up and down bound. And this actually is a very key effective thing. You can see here I have 7, 8, 9 and 0 set to 2, 3, 4, and 5, because group member 1 is always me, and I have that always set to the kind of the left control to self-target my heals. That actually is very comfortable for me, especially on controller, but note that you have that flexibility with that left control. You use that, it's going to target you. You can also bind that to a button if you're a keyboard and mouse player, but having the ability to target 7, 8, 9, and 0 is critical, and actually has changed how I play healers overall. So I'm really glad to see them bring in more team-based efforts when it comes to targeting. So don't ignore this section. Find what works for you, that's comfortable for you, so you can focus target on whoever you need. You could still use the scroll wheel. There's a lot of things that you can kind of play around with, and then as we go into the game settings, you can kind of play with targeted healing. You can look at freeform, camera healing, aim, reticle, sticky lock, manual target, and group mode. This I would encourage you to kind of play around with and get a good feel for, so you know exactly what's going to work for your play style and how you choose to approach this role in New World. So now it's time that we actually transition into kind of our weapons and skills section. Coming up after this, we're going to talk perks and gear, and some of this always is interrelated, especially into your build. We know loadouts are coming, and I'm really looking forward to sharing that with you here on this channel when that does drop. But let's talk about how I approach healing overall. Lifestaff is going to be obviously critical, and to kind of pull this up, there's definitely things that I'm doing that I prefer to do, especially as it relates to my perks. I'm not going to sit here and tell you this is the most efficient way to play, but find the fun. I also would recommend Beacon as a choice, especially when you're playing. You can pair Beacon with your Sacred Ground and either Divine Embrace or Splash of Light for AoE heals. It really kind of depends. But personally for me, I really enjoy playing this style of healer. I have perks that actually enhance Splash of Light as well, which gives me, I guess, an added advantage personally when I'm playing. But we'll talk about also kind of best in slot weapons here in just a second as an option, something to chase out there, because there's always going to be something to chase, and perks can really help move that best in slot line for you personally. Again, find the fun. Don't worry about being super efficient right now. So first and foremost, I've got Divine Embrace, and I have this, and this is going to heal my target. It's a single target with a cooldown of 5.4 seconds for 120% of my weapon damage. Then I enhance this with a reduction in the mana cost. Originally it was at 25 mana, now it's going to cost just 20 mana. Then I also have a shared struggle. If my target is below 50% health, I'm going to heal one additional ally within 8 meters of that for the same amount. And also, if the ally is shared struggled as well below 50% health, I'm going to heal another ally within 8 meters of that ally. So this is like ping pong Divine Embrace all the way down. So I enjoy this because it is a single target, but it has the potential to kind of AoE heal and kind of spare you a little bit of stress every now and then. Sacred Ground, I love this. This is going to place that healing area on the floor. This is going to be a 3 meter with, it's going to last for 12 seconds, and allies are going to be healed for 16% weapon damage every second. This is enhanced, where it also will regenerate stamina and mana. And if I said that wrong, welcome to the channel, guys. Massively dyslexic. I don't know why I decided to get into YouTube content creation, but I'm sure someone's going to call me out for how I speak. Welcome, guys. I'm glad you're here. All right, Anointed here. When allies are in Sacred Ground, they are also healed for 50% more from all healing. So it also enhances that. Again, when I start to think of AoEs, putting this bad boy down, getting everybody together, boom, 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 also here as well. So I end up having, I feel like, a very big AoE healing build here. Now, then we're going to go into Splash of Light. You are going to heal all your group members within 100 meters. They're going to be healed for 60% of weapon damage. This is then enhanced with each ally healed that is below 50% health. You're actually going to get 5% mana back to you. Really nice. And then also Splash of Light will remove 1 debuff when it heals an ally. I have a perk that enhances this further, and we'll cover it in the next section. But it's a good perk, guys. I really, really enjoy it. So in terms of my perks here, we're going to start with my Ultimate Divine Blessing. When I heal an ally that's below 50% health, they are healed for actually 30% more. So again, like you just start piling all this stuff together, and it starts to look real pretty. Absolved, Lifestaff's light and heavy attacks no longer consume mana. This is really important, especially so you don't end up draining yourself. Honestly, what I always advise, especially as a leveling perspective, I do focus in on skills first and foremost, but this is essentially probably the first perk that I would probably advise you to get so you can do some attacking on the Lifestaff and not end up finding yourself just completely without mana. Then I have Blissful Touch. Light attacks now heal 16% weapon damage when actually passing through an ally. So you can attack and heal along with this. So it really is a healing focused build here. Revitalize. When you hit with a light attack, reduce Lifestaff ability cooldown by 5%. Again, thus keeping these things up and as often as possible. Enchanted Justice here. So when you hit with a battle, activate a healing aura for you and nearby friends in a 4-meter radius. The aura heals for 8% weapon damage each second for 6 seconds. So again, putting out more damage, or sorry, more healing if I get hurt, and then essentially intensifying. When you hit with a heavy attack, gain a stacking 10% bonus to healing effectiveness for 10 seconds. Beautiful stuff. And then finally, Sacred Protection. While holding a Lifestaff, increase the amount of incoming healing to all friendlies in your group by 5%. So I've boosted that over here. Then I have, after a dodge, your heals are now 20% more effective for 5 seconds. One of the things I love to do is just do a little dodge and then have that additional 20% healing bonus. And then finally, Protector's Touch. Lifestaff light heavy attacks grant 15% fortify for 3 seconds when hitting an enemy. This is going to reduce incoming damage to me, thus increasing my survivability. So that is the Lifestaff. Now, I paired Lifestaff with Void Gauntlet, and this Void Gauntlet currently is set up for kind of a solo build. We were playing this on the their Twitch stream last night or yesterday. We also play every Friday if you guys want to come join and hang out. It's back. If you guys are enjoying the videos thus far, hit that like button. Check out the podcast Epically Radio, filmed live over on Ginger Prime every Wednesday so far. You can also just subscribe to the MP3 audio everywhere podcasts are found. So links are all in the description. Check out the Discord and check out the Twitch. We hope to see you over there when you get the chance. I wasn't really planning on plugging too much in this video, but it just came up naturally. So I guess that's the best way to go about it. So in the Void Gauntlet, I have the Annihilation and a Decay kind of semi build here. This isn't how I would recommend it for a PvE healer, but I do enjoy this build, so I'm going to highlight it for you, and then we're going to rebuild this here in this video to show you how I would actually focus it as a pure healer focus in this regard. I do take the Void Blade as a solo player or when I'm engaging with group play out in the open world. This just makes it a lot easier rather than you're constantly having to kind of aim and attack. Also much easier as a controller player, but this gives you a Void Blade to convert your energy, and it's just awesome. It's kind of like Halo's light sword in this regard. It's fantastic. Anyhow, I've enhanced this with gain fortify on start, increasing damage absorption by 20% for 5 seconds, 10% critical hit on damage with Void Blade attacks, and finally Leeching Blade on successful thrust heavy attacks. Heal thyself for 5% weapon damage per disintegrate stack on the target. Scales exclusively with your focus ability, which is great. We'll cover that in our stats section as well. This also gets enhanced with Void Collar. On successful ability hit, gain a stack of Void Essence. At 6 stacks, consume all stacks and gain 3% aura that heals self and friendlies for 30% weapon damage and deals 30% weapon damage per second to the enemy within. Healing scales exclusively with focus. All right. Then I take this Oblivion. Oh gosh, I love Oblivion. This is going to be a circular rift of void energy at your feet that deals 30% weapon damage over a second and grants empower to self and friendlies, increasing damage by 15% for 5 minutes. I then enhance this with the ability to have my attacks inflict weaken on targets inside the radius, reducing their damage by 5% for 5 seconds and stacks up to 3 times. And then finally, 15 points of stamina per second for self and friendlies while inside this radius as well. So like these two things I think are just so much fun. Now, I don't take the blade, I take the beautiful Essence Rapture, but we'll talk about it in case of PvE, PvP as well, options there. Then Orb of Decay. This is going to fire an unblockable orb that passes through enemies, dealing 90% weapon damage and inflicts Disintegrate, dealing 5% weapon damage per second and reducing damage absorption by 5% for 8 seconds. This will stack up to 3 times at max range. It transforms into a healing orb and returns healing friendlies for 20% weapon damage per second for 5 seconds. Healing scales exclusively with focus. You can enhance this with gain 5% mana per enemy hit of the orb. This also slows enemies already afflicted by any debuff, reducing their movement speed by 30% for 3 seconds. And finally, you can actually have it detonate. You can press the ability again to detonate the orb and with a 4-meter explosion radius. Depending on the orb's phase, the explosion will either damage enemies for 70% weapon damage and apply a stack of disintegrate, or heal friendlies for 70% weapon damage. Healing scales exclusively with your focus stat. Then with this build, we've got Fervent Thrust, 5% mana per successful ranged attack against targets affected by your Void Gauntlet. And then we've got Dodging with full mana, heals you for 80% weapon damage and scales exclusively with focus with a 20-second cooldown. This is fantastic. You got full mana, dodge. Nice little permanent personal heal for yourself. So be sure to keep an eye out on this. This is actually really key to kind of my strategy when it comes to the Void Gauntlet. All right, so now let me walk you through how I actually have it set up with my healing spec for PvE. I take Essence Rapture. What this does is it fires a projectile that inflicts Essence Rapture for 10 seconds, healing anyone that actually then hits the target for 20% damage, 20% of the damage done. This is basically applying a leeching effect. I think of Final Fantasy XI's Dancer as kind of this idea. So I can put a leeching effect so that if you're hitting this target, you'll start to heal yourself. Now I enhance this with players afflicted receive 15 stamina when hitting with the afflicted target. And finally, friendlies within 4 meters of the afflicted target are healed for 80% of your weapon damage when Essence Rupture ends. Scales exclusively with focus. So here's the thing. This is great, especially on a boss. This is great. I wish it was kind of an AoE. I think that would be really cool, but it's not. That's actually the problem and why I would not recommend this in PvP, because in PvP you're gonna be attacking maybe a couple different targets, so it ends up being a little bit more difficult to communicate that Essence Rapture is out on what specific target. And if that ever changes in the future, I will be sure to let you know, because I do love this ability. I absolutely do. If I ever could take 4 abilities, I take this and the blade. But in this case, this is a great way of putting this on a target, letting your team focus them, because it's going to keep healing them as well. And then obviously having it when it ends doing an extra heal. This can kind of put you into more of a damage focus mindset, and that's kind of why I start to choose some of these perks. Now, since we've already reviewed Orb Decay and Oblivion, and I've done this, I'm going to kind of talk to you guys about the perk selection that I use, and you can guys go from there. So I take Deadly Range. I'm a healer. I'm not necessarily going to be front line. The example off this is Oblivion. It does have to be set, so you can't set this at range, so this is up close and personal. But in this case, if I'm far enough back, I want to take 10% additional damage from ranged heavy attacks against targets that are 8 meters away. I take Radiance FSG. Mana costs are reduced by 25% when above 50% mana, saving me even more mana. Mending Evasion, I love this. I'm going to keep that on myself. Refreshing Harvest, we'll talk about that, and I'm going to showcase this here in just a second for you guys. Then I've got Fervent Thirst, that 5% mana per successful ranged and light attack against targets afflicted by my Void Gauntlet debuffs. Then I take the Keen Confidence, 10% critical chance when above 50% health. Another 10% critical chance when all abilities are actually on cooldown. And all this aspect is that when I get a critical hit, my cooldown abilities are going to be reduced. And so that's going to kind of refresh my skills as well. I take the Glimpse of the Void, gain a stack of Void Essence per successful ability hit. At 4 more stacks, your next successful ranged heavy attack will instantly reset all Void Gauntlet cooldowns and remove all stacks within 15 seconds. So if you guys have feedback on this, I'd love to know any and all changes that you would personally make. And so I actually just really been having a lot of fun with this setup. So let me know what changes you would have made in this regard. But I want to talk to you kind of about that Harvest Essence real quick, and then we'll talk about some options that you could take into kind of PvP. So if I equip my Void Gauntlet here, let me just swap this in. If I'm blocking, you're going to see a Harvest Essence, right? That's going to deal damage, but then reduce those cooldowns. That's kind of why actually dodging and getting that self-heal is so valuable to me, is that I have the ability to really get these abilities off my cooldown and lower their cooldown just by doing that. Obviously, that 20-second heal is going to be on cooldown, but it is how that functions. And so that's something I just wanted to highlight for you guys, because it ends up being, I think, such a critical tool in my lineup and belt. But overall, doing the healing, it ends up being really, really exciting. I do also have it to where it displays kind of cooldowns. So if I go and do that and kind of target, well, I'll just put it right here. You can see here on my screen, I have my cooldown. That's actually a setting that's done in the game. For the longest time, I thought that was actually an add-on, but no, it's not. You can actually kind of see your ability cooldowns listed here as well. So hopefully that is a good way to start off the skills. Now let's go ahead and move into my weapons and gear and perks that I have on myself. Now, you'll see here I don't have everything yet gym slotted. I'm still kind of working my way through, making sure that I'm not burning too much money, especially as economies and patches change. So at the time of this recording, I am rocking a Lifestaff, Rallying Defiled Lifestaff of the Sage. It's got that 30 points of focus. I've got diamonds. This is that rally for 15% damage and outgoing healing while actually at full health. So this is increasing my damage, increasing my healing. It's got keen speed. On critical, gain 20% haste for 10 seconds, make me faster. This also has blessed. This is a beautiful perk. 20% healing outright bonus. Then I've got Purity of Light. Allies with the debuff that is removed with Splash of Light will also be healed for 84% of my weapon damage. So Splash of Light has the chance of removing a debuff, and when that happens, now you're going to get that 84% additional healing that goes out for that. And that's why I kind of really enjoy that AoE healing build. Now, if we're talking about best in slot, Will of the Ancients is a really excellent legendary for healers that does have, you know, obviously blessed, which is that 20%. It has refreshing move. Light and heavy attacks actually reduce your active cooldown by 2.8%. Refreshing reduces max cooldown by 2.8%. So it's got a great way of getting those abilities back up for you as a healer. So that might be considered best in slot. I'm obviously not rocking best in slot, but it's okay. You know, and that's one of the things I love about the Freedom itself. Now, I don't yet have a more powerful Void Gauntlet, but this one is working as it's doing it right now. It's got that diamond, which is going to give me that 15% damage, outgoing healing, keen 11% critical damage, and life stealing. I'm going to gain 4.8% of my damage actually as health, which is important. That actually feeds back to that rally 4. So I try to kind of think of these in terms of their synergy. Here on the left-hand side, focusing here on the Guardian Flanker Hat of the Sentry, you notice I'm in light. Light, essentially, if you're ever kind of curious, it is going to increase my damage out and my healing out. By healing, in this case, 30% damage by 20%, gives me that dodge roll as well, which is wonderful. And so dodging is important, especially as it relates to healing. So just note that's kind of what I've got there. It's got a refreshing, it's got resilient, and indestructible, meaning it's not going to take any durability loss. Refreshing is going to reduce my max cooldown by 2.8. Resilient critical hits deal 4.8% less damage to me. Then I've got reinforced infused leather coat of the Sage, focusing in on focus. Obviously, that's a real key stat. Physical ward is what I've got slotted. Vigor, burn, bleed, and poison expires 11% faster. Fortifying sacred ground. Allies are healed by sacred ground actually gain fortify, increasing damage absorption by 9.7% for 5 seconds. That does not stack. So putting in multiples, in which you'll actually see I currently do have multiples of that perk. You know, that's just the nature of it. So then we'll go from there. The reinforced Sage Walker handy wraps of the Sage, physical ward resilient, again that fortified sacred ground and indestructible there. Some perks in this game stack, some don't. There's charts and things like that, and maybe we'll make a dedicated video for you guys as well. Then I've got reinforced immemorial cloth pants of the Sage. Oh, I was going to call out that this is actually medium. You can have like one piece of medium and still have a light. So I go with a medium chest for its armor and physical rating, and then I go to the pants. Everything else is light. I've got a diminishing orb on hit, orb of decay. Again, Void Gauntlet reduces the duration by target's non-consumable buffs by 51%. Reinforced Skinning Luck and Luck are also attached to this one. And then I have reinforced Primal Claw Slews of the Artificer. I'm not necessarily focusing in on everything. The Contagious Reverse Stab does not really apply to the current weapons that I have, but it does help if I am rocking a sword, if I want to kind of go with the Paladin build. And that's originally actually what I got those boots there for. You can see Corrupted Ward, Indestructible also on this item. And then for my accessories, the old amulet, again, focus build, fortify recovery when you are hit, while below 50%, gain 10% fortify for 5 seconds with a 90-second cooldown, does not trigger off persistent damage. Divine is going to give me 9.7 more health from all incoming healing effects, and slash protection, you take 9.9% less damage from slash. Then for the old ring here, focus and constitution, poison that I last applies 29% longer, doesn't really apply to me that much. Strike damage, you deal 4.9% more strike damage, and then luck is listed on that one. Then I've got the earring Kismet charm. It's got refreshing evasion, reduces active cooldowns by 7.4% after exiting the dodge animation. Refreshing reduces max cooldowns by 2.9, and purifying toast. When you drink a regeneration potion, I will lose a debuff that is currently applied to me. So those are the perks and the gear that I have currently got slotted. I'm always looking to chase and kind of play around with those things. I think loadouts, when they get those added, are going to be a huge benefit to the game itself. Let's talk about attributes. Now, if I go ahead and actually use some food here, let's just eat some of the food that I got. You'll actually see my attributes jump up. In terms of my focus, I could then lower this focus down and actually get to 150 Constitution. This is going to reduce critical damage taken. So if you can get to 150, that's going to be a survivable focus in which that you can use. Now, I haven't yet really felt like I've needed that too much, but I'm still kind of playing around with it. Again, you can respec easily for pretty cheap, so you can have a lot of focus in this regard. After 300, you get a diminishing return on that effect. So note that, yes, I do have more points, but if you can push that up, you're going to push up your output healing so much more. And clearly, there's still pieces of gear that I can get that are going to help out with that dramatically. But just want to highlight this. This is currently where I am. I could also eat a Constitution food, because even without eating the food, I'm still at 300. And then as I kind of get new pieces and kind of play around with that, I'm really kind of shooting for ideally if I could get to 350 or 150 here on Constitution. I think that'd be my really kind of perfect setup right now. But I would even be fine with actually lowering down Constitution to boost up healing even more, especially if I'm not having any problem keeping myself alive. So choice is going to be up to you. Kind of play around with this, see what ultimately works and specs itself out. Now, in terms of alternate builds, like we were talking about for the weapon skills and weapon mastery, you could take the rapier in terms of PvP for its movement abilities, getting around and getting out of dodge. So that is something where maybe I would kind of point you to, as an option if you're looking, hey, Brian, what should I do for PvP? Namely, drop the Void Gauntlet, go with more movement and getting out of dodge, because if you're going to go with that healing build itself, that's going to be something that's going to be important for you. Or you take the Lifestaff and you take something for more defensive and maneuver, where Lifestaff is just a way of kind of topping yourself off maybe after the battle, or standing in sacred soil while you end up engaging in combat itself. But that's just an option. I'll let you guys choose for yourself. So with this, we've covered attributes, perks, and gear, weapons, skills, targeting, leveling up healer thoughts, as well as kind of the idea of focusing in on the fun and efficiency. We also plugged a podcast. I would love it if you guys check it out. And if you feel like this video earns it, subscribing, or if you guys have Amazon Prime and you want to support the content me and my friend Chris make, we do have the Twitch channel, Work the Game, links in the description. Your Prime sub is a gift to us. It is such a great way of helping out somebody and spending those Bezos bucks. It's a free perk that you have, and if you guys use it on us, thank you so much. If you use it anywhere else, that's awesome too. That's just use that Bezos money. That's the best thing I can encourage you guys to do. Now, at this, I would like to point you guys to Baggins TV. I'd like to point you to Studio Loot, new worldfans.com. These are great resources when it comes to this game and videos and more. I would highly encourage that. If you guys haven't heard of those guys, check out Studio Loot, check out Baggins TV, check out all the amazing New World content creators out there we're having and featuring many on the podcast itself. So if you guys take a look at that, that'd be wonderful. If not, no worries. I appreciate if you're still here being in this epic guide of a video. If you guys want guides on tanks, on DPS, on certain weapons, sound off in the comments. I will see if I can't get that on to my project list as I break down and analyze and deliver you guys hopefully good information about this game. Thanks for being here. If you guys are interested in more videos, YouTube's probably got a couple of recommendations for you over here on the left-hand side. If you want to support me and my family directly, check out Ginger Prime. I do have membership at $1, and that's going to be the last plug that I give. Thanks so much. I hope you have a great day, and hopefully I'll see you next time. But until then, take care.